Welcome to Run With It, the podcast that brings you business ideas from established entrepreneurs. Each episode, you'll hear a new business idea and the exact steps our guest would take to get started. Follow through, and you can earn a free mentoring session with today's guest and potentially a business partnership. Here are your hosts, Chris Justin and Ethan Janney.
I'm Chris Justin.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And on today's show, we have Gary Rabine. As a senior in high school, Gary dreamt of starting a landscaping and paving business while his friends were making college plans. He believed he'd gained enough experience laboring in his dad's small business that he knew he could do it. Surrounded by college-bound friends one day in a high school cafeteria, one of them asked his college plans, and he replied that he'd like to save his money and start a business. And a smart aleck friend eagerly termed him a ditch digger, loudly laughing, "Gary's going to be a ditch digger." Motivated by this memory and desire to walk his own path, 37 years later, Gary Rabine has grown Rabine Paving and many other businesses, which are now the Rabine Group of companies. He co-hosts the Ditch Digger CEO podcast about stories like his, from ditch digger to the founder CEO of a national facilities services empire. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Great being here.
Great to have you.
Pleasure.
Great to have you. You were mentioning before we started recording that one of your passions as after you've turned 50 is to give back to the community, which we're really excited about your generous offer here to share a new business idea with our listeners. You often talk about your story and what you've accomplished so far in other formats. People can check that out on Ditch Digger CEO, the podcast, and we'll have some time at the end of the show to talk about that as well. But right now, we'll kick things off by asking you to tell us about a new problem in the world today that you are looking to help solve.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the introduction, all that. And I naturally am an innovative-minded person that loves entrepreneurship. Sometimes at a fault, I start businesses that don't work out so well. And more often than not, as I get older, my odds get higher of success. The last 20 years, I've started 25 companies. Have 9 companies today and a bunch of different other LLCs that own real estate and things like that, also besides the businesses we run. But starting business and being an entrepreneur is a lot of fun. 50 years old, I read a book called Halftime, and it's about, the second half of your life and what can you do to create meaning and impact. And so for me, in thinking about that subject, the most fun I've had was being mentored over the course of my life by good people. And back then, it wasn't even called mentoring back 35 years ago. 30 years ago, it's called sponging. In the same respect, I read some books on the subject of, learning from others and success from others. And I knew that I had to come with something in it for them. If I'm going to ask somebody to help me, what can I do to help them? So they were customers initially that I do work for and all that. And then it became business leaders that I asked to help me out, or if I could buy them a cup of coffee or whatever. But eventually I surrounded myself with a lot of friends that were much more successful than myself. And I asked a lot of questions. They shared a lot of experiences. So that became the nucleus of my success. As I jumped into different businesses, I stayed focused on the one that I knew best, which is asphalt paving and concrete paving. Started out doing residential paving. And today we're one of, if not the biggest commercial paving companies in the country. All right, all this stuff has been great. And we think we've done a pretty good job giving back. But what can we do to really make an impact on the lives of others by the end of our lives? And I'm in those last days of my life. I'd like to know that I've made an impact on others and the world is better from my existence on this planet. And thinking about that over the last 6 years and a little probably before that, I look at, how can I make a difference? And it's been mentoring. And we've got a nonprofit called True Mentors. We've got a nonprofit called Rabine Foundation. But something I've recently been working on for the last year or so is, how do we make a difference in these communities where they got all this terrible murder, crime, and shootings and all the other things? I've investigated this a bunch, and even as much as 6 weeks in India, for a bunch of reasons. I was there discovering some medical innovation for some health issues we have in my family, as well as talking to many innovators in India, as well as visiting the slums of India to understand how it is that the poor in India, 90% live with less than $3,000 a year for a family of 5, much less than our poverty level here in America. And when I look at the crime rates, way, way lower than per capita than America. So what, I scratch my head. Why is that? And I discover a little bit of what I knew, but not quite as much as I really believed. These people that live in this way below normal poverty level, 90% of them about 90% of the kids are raised with a father in their lives. How is it that, man, they're living in this crazy poverty, but the fathers stick with their families. They don't leave their kids behind. When there's no incentive, the government doesn't pay them anything, or they get nothing for that, right? So I realized that was a big difference from what we see in our communities in America and in our city of Chicago, which I think is a big problem. And then secondly, the biggest other thing I saw that created this culture of family and love, I saw respect, and I saw courage in these people. You know, we had dinner with some of these families in the slums of India. We got to know people there, and my son and I had a great time with these people. But the courage I saw in these people, the amount of respect and lack of fear was awesome. So I'm like, where's that come from? So as I talked to these people, I met nobody that didn't have some form of faith above them. I don't care if they're Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Catholic. They all believed in something beyond themselves, which I believe is the second part of the reason for their lack of violence and their amount of happiness with such a lower amount of stuff than we have here in America. So when I looked at these things, I said, man, there's got to be something we could do here in America that to cure this problem we have in these urban environments. I believe I have a solution. I challenge anybody to join me in the solution. I built my life around lots of networking. I network with some of the greatest CEOs and business leaders and entrepreneurs you can imagine. Very blessed that a hillbilly paving guy could have the relations I have with some of the best CEOs and entrepreneurs that America's ever had. And I can name tons of names of people that in America today, they're my friends that I would never believe that would ever consider me a friend, right? So I'm very blessed with that. In the Chicagoland area, I'm confident. I've talked to a bunch of my friends or CEOs that employ a lot of people. That if we got 25, and I've got them, 25 names of CEOs in the Chicagoland area that have all said yes, and yes means that they'll volunteer to hire 10 to 20% of their hires. And some of my friends hire 50 people a year. We hire 120 to 150 people a year. One of my friends hires 2,000 people a year on their team in the Chicagoland area, right? If we have selfless people in these communities, identifying places where we can speak from, and kids that are good kids that want opportunity, that have hope. And every one of them said, absolutely. So again, and this is what I see in CEOs that have built something from nothing. They're givers. They're not takers. Our society says that CEOs make $5 million a year, and they all make 5 or 10 million in bonuses. Well, the CEOs I know, the Fortune 500 CEOs, that might be the case, right? But CEOs that I know are building small, mid-sized, and large businesses, and most of their money goes back into the businesses. They take very little from the businesses, and the ones that I'm talking about will engage in my plan, which is identify kids at the tune of a few hundred the first year and a few thousand within 5 years, showing them hope by saying, we are going to hire this amount of people in your marketplace, and we want good kids with high school diplomas. We don't care if your plans are college or not. We prefer to have kids that don't want to go to college or don't want to go to college yet. And we believe we can put them through a 4-year program in our businesses that will create intelligence in business and aptitude in business. They'll be way stronger than any 4-year degree could create. So an example would be in our businesses, in our nine companies, we've got some tough jobs. Our tough jobs are pouring concrete and paving asphalt and doing roofing on 90, 100-degree days. But those tough jobs actually pay pretty doggone well. We want to put these kids in the tough jobs for the first 18 months. And if they get through that and show work ethic, they next go into finance and accounting. Whether they have a first grade aptitude or a 10th grade aptitude, they go into finance and accounting for the next 6 to 8 months. And they learn why the numbers mean so much and why profits are important, not evil, and very important in the lifeline to so much opportunity. Thirdly, they go into sales and marketing to understand how to sell and market, whether they have a great high EQ or low EQ. We teach them why sales and marketing is so darn important to the relationships we build and the awareness we create of the innovation and the businesses that we have. And lastly, they go into operations and entrepreneurship. And that's another 6 to 8 month program determined by their passion, their aptitude for that spot in business. What I can guarantee is a kid that goes through this in 4 years at 22 years old will have more business savvy, more knowledge of the whole 4 parts of business I just talked about than any kid that comes out of college with a 4-year degree. And the bonus is they made money, hopefully saved a little money. They have zero debt, and they're guided by these CEOs and their executives. So we call it the EIT Executive Intern Track. I know I can get selfless CEOs and executives. I've got some friends in these communities that are going to help find selfless people, but we need a lot of them that are the selfless kids with hope that want great opportunities. Whether it be pastors and police and teachers and moms and dads, right? They've got to be selfless people. So that's the key. So in the end, I want to create this in the Chicagoland market. If I could do it here, you can do it everywhere. So that's kind of that's a challenge that I have ahead of me.
Cool. And one of the things that we highlight in this podcast is how someone can get it started. And this is interesting because you are giving an example of how to get something like this started with what you've done already. You have a vision of what it should be. You have a structure. And of course, that could be adapted and changed, but it's important to have that structure. And I'm intrigued by the fact that, you've already talked to a bunch of CEOs of businesses and you have them, as you said, on board. And I think that one of the things that I'm thinking of in terms of someone else trying to get this started or trying to help get this started is that's leverage that they have when they're trying to sell it to whoever they need to sell it to, right? And, I've got CEOs on board for this program, right? I'm also thinking that the type of person that could be taking the reins for this, like we encourage people to do on this podcast, is maybe the right person within one of these communities, because they're going to even more than any of the people that become enrolled in the program, they were going to be getting that mentorship, right? It's almost like you said, they'll be sponging.
So yeah, and here's the thing, you said it, right? So Quentin, who's my partner and True Mentors, comes from this community. So he'll have an integral role in identifying people that want the opportunities, right? I believe that anybody that gets involved is going to establish a relationship, a networks that normal people just don't get, relationships that I couldn't have ever had 20 years ago. The best relationships happen when we're selfless compared to when they're really doing it for their own best interest, right? When I see people that are givers, man, I gravitate to those people and I want to love them and be friends with them forever, right? And so if I'm a 25-year-old person and I want to get to know the titans of business and how they work and have opportunity for my future, holy cow, there's no better place than to be part of what we're talking about.
There's a lot to unpack here. Let me try and restate a little bit of what you've shared to make sure that I've got it, to see if we can find an entry point for some of our listeners, potentially in a different market. It sounds like you've made a lot of progress in Chicago. The problem, as you're seeing it, is in a lot of American communities, there is an epidemic of violence. There are a bunch of people in poverty that don't feel like they have a way out. And there are a number of reasons for why this is happening. One that you brought up is a lot of times fathers aren't around. And this is something that you think we can address through our businesses, which I'm on board with that idea. And the way that you are foreseeing this project is getting a commitment from local businesses to hire 10 to 20% of people from underprivileged communities and put them in a training program where you can give them mentorship, get them paid, teach them about responsibility, hard work, all the great things that come from working in small, medium businesses. Am I on point so far?
Absolutely. You're on target, buddy. Keep it going.
Okay, great. So the thing that really jumps out to me that I love about this is it's clear that you are invested in people, and there's a big investment that you're talking about. When you talk about a 4-year commitment to someone who is coming out of high school, a jaded person, and sometimes it's our job on this podcast to be jaded, to ask the questions that listeners may have, would say, these millennials or Gen Z folks, they don't have the work ethic to commit to something like that for 4 years. How are you going to invest so much in a person like this when they don't have anything really that they can give you in return other than saying that they're going to do it?
I believe that it's going to be kids that want an opportunity. It's going to be kids that understand the core values that are behind these businesses. So all these businesses are going to be talking to these kids. They're going to be able to look them all up and understand the core values. And we're going to say, don't even apply at the Rabine Group if you don't understand these 5 core values and how important they are to us. If you don't think you can live by them, look elsewhere, right? And if you have the ambition and if you have the work ethic and you want to be in a culture that lives by these core values, we want you on our team. We don't care where you come from. Does not matter. We want great people that care about each other. We want people that are accountable. And again, everybody, I wasn't all the things. Our 5 core values, I wasn't the best at these things 25, 30 years ago, right? And I'm still not the best today. I strive to live by our core values. But if a kid understands that core values are really important, when they see this stuff in 7th, 8th grade, freshman, sophomore year, they're like, man, I can live by those. My mom talks about those all the time. My grandpa talks. I mean, all people can understand in businesses, they're out to make money. Well, no, man, we want to create culture, and all these businesses I'm talking about create great culture, and I'll strive to be the best place to work, right? So I believe that it's going to take these people, myself and these other CEOs, to be seen, and these executives to be seen in their community for a little while. I've been told you can't go in those communities, Gary. You can do that outside the communities, and it'll work fine. I said bullshit. If I'm in that community, if somebody doesn't come in my community, have the guts to come in my community to talk from my community, then really, do they really care, right? To see how we live and understand who we are. And I've got I've been blessed to do work in these areas and have friends in these areas. My buddy Quentin, that's my partner in True Mentors, is from this communities. Still lives there today. So I understand them a little bit, but I need to understand them a lot more. And so these other executives, and I believe that if these people really want to make a difference, number one, we selfishly, they all have a challenge to find great people today. Okay, so selfishly, we need people. So even if they don't care, they're selfish, they need good people. And I believe I'm a guy that didn't go to college. I barely made it through high school, right? And I believe that the grittiness that I grew up on has been a huge blessing for my success. And so when I look at these kids and I talk to these kids, I see kids that are gritty as heck. Most of these kids are way tougher than I was. And so you can be told that you're a victim. You can be told that you're a victor, right? I choose to tell these kids they're victors. I choose to tell them, throw the crutches out and call them blessings. And if they do that, I'm confident they'll have more grit in life and in business than the normal person, and therefore could be more successful if they really want it.
So I totally buy that. And I love that answer. You can hear that passion in your voice as you're talking about this. The other thing that comes up for me is from the business side, it's this conflict that I'm feeling between a capitalistic model and an altruistic one. And you touched upon it briefly there, talking about just selfishly, people are looking for people to hire. They need good people to hire. But it feels like you're taking off the pure capitalism hat and saying, we're trying to do social good. And it seems like there could be some tension there when you are, pulling that capitalist hat off, and maybe that comes at the expense of making as much profit in the first couple of years. You have this vision down the line of how it's going to grow the business ultimately by going into these communities and building up this thing, but that's not assured, one. And two, it could hurt the bottom line right now.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that?
Okay, so I choose to talk about free enterprise and socialism, okay? And so social justice is more served in free enterprise than any other system in the world. I'm a guy that didn't have steak and lobster, maybe 1 or 2 times until I was 13, 14 years old. It was the best thing I ever had was steak and lobster, right? And at different times, and I dreamed of having it more often. I'm a guy that couldn't go to a Cubs game or Bears game, couldn't afford it. My dad was a sports fan and really couldn't afford to take us to a game. And I didn't go to any ball games until I was probably 18, 20. And no big deal. I mean, these are all good things to my life, actually, to remember back at. Today, I'm blessed that I have a tailgate. And every tailgate, I have steak and lobster, and we serve 50 to 150 people every Bears game. And I buy tickets to every single game, and I haven't sold one ticket in 20 years. We've given away thousands of tickets. They're expensive tickets. And we're blessed that they go to our friends, our teammates, our customers. We give tons of tickets to our foundation and the different causes we give to. They go to auctions a lot. But again, all these things are blessings of free enterprise that I would never have if I lived in any other country other than America. Today, the best thing that can take us out of the debt we have, that we have to compete with the rest of the world, is this entrepreneurial thing that we have in America that you just can't find anywhere else. I mean, and so for me, I'm a crazy entrepreneur that's been rewarded for fun things that we've been able to create, and I see that the difference it's made in many lives. If we can teach kids from everywhere, including these urban communities, the blessings of entrepreneurship and free enterprise, man, that's going to be the best thing to take them from where they're at today to where they can be, whatever they want to be. There's some selfishness here too, because I know that I can invest and it'll cost me money to educate these kids. But I'm very, very confident in the long run, our reputation will grow stronger. Our team and a loyalty of our team will grow stronger. But again, if it wasn't for this, our opportunities in entrepreneurship and free enterprise, we wouldn't be able to do all those things we do. So again, I'm confident that the only thing that can save our country and my state of Illinois is becoming stronger in entrepreneurship and teaching kids that they can do it on their own. And they don't have to be stuck in my business. They go through this 4-year program. These kids can go on their own and be successful. Now, my plan is that hopefully most of them stay in our business and they're loyal. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur. But if everybody respects entrepreneurship and free enterprise, that's going to be good for our business and every business. Long answer, buddy, but you asked it.
I think one of the things that is just a piggyback on what Chris was asking too, and aligns with the questions that we asked about businesses, right? A lot of people talk about a contribution, like a monetary contribution from a consumer for a product. A lot of times comes from a pain that they're dealing with, right? So, something's very complex in my business, so I'm going to outsource it whenever I'm going to pay for that. So I think I have a sense of where the pain's coming from here and who's feeling it. And it's got to be someone who can contribute value, right? So the people in the inner city are experiencing the pain. The value that they contribute is they're going to have to make a little bit of a sacrifice, to change their life. But I'm seeing that like the pain, some of the pains are coming like from the CEO side. It's not a pain, but it's almost like an existential thing. It's like you said, you're 50 years old, you get to 50 years old, and it's like you almost have this like urge, you just have to give back in some way. And so it seems like it's fulfilling that kind of a need. And then there's definitely a pain being felt on the larger scale from the community, the government having to manage the issues that are going on and so on and so forth. So the buy-in is from the CEOs. Would you agree that a huge part of it is sort of like just that general desire to give back? Because that's what I'm feeling from you. And then is there anybody else outside contributing finance money to this? Or is this strictly just the CEOs, giving people gigs?
So my goal would be, initially for sure, all privately funded by the people with skin in the game. The CEOs, they're not just going to give their time and talent, but money also. I would expect all of us, actually, I told everybody that, they're going to throw a chunk of dough in the pool, because we probably have to hire one other person, but, and leverage, the 2 people we have in true mentors, and then 50, 60 people otherwise that are dedicating their time and energy to help us out, right? The cost of mentorship and the time of these people is valuable, but we look at, if you met the people we have in True Mentors, the CEOs, there's 50, 55 of us, I guess. All these people, if you looked at their value of time, it'd be big dollars. And they're giving their time to a younger person from their early 20s to, let's say, 30 that's new in business, startup business, whatever. They're giving their time, which if you valued it, would be worth $1,000 to $100,000 an hour, okay, depending on where they're at in their business lives. And so again, we look at their value of time, it's high, but these aren't people that talk about how much their time is worth. They love giving. And so these are the people that you got to have. You can't have just anybody. You can't be a person that says, man, my time is worth $100,000 an hour. You think I'm going to give my time for that? Well, no, we don't want you, actually, if that's your attitude. We want people that actually want it. They're in the stage of their lives, whether they're 40 years old or 60 years old or 70 years old or 50, and they want to give back. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And so the pain factors aren't really felt, because if when you mentor, you get more out of mentoring, in my opinion, than the person that's being mentored. When you give back and invest in something like I'm talking about, the happiness to see other people do something, do well when they might not have the opportunity otherwise, it's way, way more valuable than the money or it's costing you to do that. I believe that there's not a lot of pain. The only pain will be the discomfort of somebody going in a neighborhood that they're worried about their life in, right? The pain might be, getting threatened here or there by walking in these areas. That's probably the biggest challenge, is the safety, the safety or the perception of safety, a lack of safety in these communities for the people that walk in them, right?
So I think this would be a good time to kind of hone in on what a listener can do if they were to try and get something similar to this going, or maybe even work on this project in a different city at the same time? Because the goal of this podcast is to help listeners think through new business ideas, really see how you think through a new business idea and how you would approach it. Let's say there's someone out there listening and they're in Los Angeles or in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or wherever, and they're totally on board with what you're saying. They believe that that this problem is one of the most pressing issues. They really feel compelled to work on it. What are some of the things that they can do, maybe working directly within your framework, or even if they were starting this from the ground up, in order to get this project going?
Yeah, so we're probably 2 months away from having a really good strategic plan. We've been working on it for a while, but by that time, we should have a plan that says here's the teammates we need on each side, from the CEOs and the executives. Here's what we need, and here's our expectation. Here's the program, the type of program we want every business to offer. 4-phase program. It's going to look a little different from a manufacturing business to a construction business like ours to a medical, distribution company or whatever, right? Either way, 4 phases of business, the 4 major phases of business we want them to experience. And so, and that's not easy to take somebody. If I have somebody, let's say I have a young woman or young man that we put on a paving crew, and it takes them 3-4 months to get them up to snuff and get these kids all trained. Well, my foreman out there doesn't want to lose them. If they're a good kid, they're like, man, you can't take this kid away from me. They're amazing, right? But sorry, man, in 18 months, they're gone. In every phase, there's going to be a little heartache. If I was talking to people like myself, CEOs and leaders of business, I'd say, hey, man, watch what we do and track what we do. This will be the first pilot. I'm not sure I'd be ready to say, let's do 10 at one time. In my opinion, we do one pilot really well, and we do 300 or 400 kids the first year really, really well, to make sure that our foundation is built very strong. By the time we're in the 3rd year and it's 1,000 kids, okay, now we're on our way. We're seeing big results. I look at CEOs and business leaders as, hey, man, listen in and call me and let's help work on this together, and let's help me in this marketplace, make it solid, rock solid, and then we can roll it out to your market next. And then when I look at, let's say, people in these communities, right? People in these communities are just outside these communities. How can you help, and how can you be a part of it? I mean, number one, if you're part of it, you're going to meet CEOs and executives and leaders in business that are givers that you would not be able to meet otherwise. And these are people that I couldn't be mentored by or get to know 25 years ago, but people that give and get involved, they all can get to know them, right? Because it'll be a team of high performing people that, man, I sure would have wanted to know when I was 25 or 30 years old. So I look at people in the community, as long as they're givers, they're selfless, we're going to embrace them all, and it'll be a lot of fun to be part of it, in my opinion. But those people are the people that are better than us at identifying how do we get in front of the right schools, the right part in the right park systems, the right churches, right, to talk about and spread the word. There's hope. There's something else I can do, man. I didn't think about that. I can work for that crazy hillbilly paving guy, Rabine, and do any one of those 9 businesses, as long as I can live by those core values. Man, I can make some good bucks. I believe the goal is 50 or more by 24. So that means, hey, man, work as hard as you can to understand work and have the dignity of work and understand the rhythm of work, right? So your body gets it, your body wants it and loves work and has fun with it. And then by the time you're 24, man, if you can make 50 or more by 24, that's not so bad. You can support yourself now. And man, if you're at 50 or more by 24, you can be 100 or more by 30. I think that this program, if you do it well, I know that if I'm hiring and I get a kid that comes out of that program compared to a kid that's got a 4-year undergrad, most cases, unless that kid worked his or her way through college and high school and understands work ethic, understands a little bit about business, I'm afraid that kid won't be as valuable as the kid that we can train in our program. So again, I'd be looking for volunteers that say, man, I can help in that front of creating awareness and also identifying good people that want opportunity, good kids that want a direction and they want some hope, right? So that would be probably the most important roles are going to be that, in my opinion.
So I was just going to say, it sounds like a big part of getting started for you has been contacting some of your CEO friends and saying, hey, are you on board for this? And it seems like a good first step to get people like that on board, at least find interest for it. So like, let's say somebody's starting this in like Philadelphia or something, some other city like Chicago, and they're not already a CEO themselves. What does it take to get in front of people and pitch this idea to them to get them on board? Is that possible?
So here's the thing. I'm blessed with a lot of opportunities. So my blessings are that I'm involved in a bunch of regional, national leadership organizations that house CEOs and entrepreneurs across the country. So I'm confident that if I can build it here in Chicagoland area, I can get the word out in every major city of the country. That's great. Myself and my friends can get the word out. But that's nothing compared to, again, the communities, understanding it's there, taking advantage of it, and really thriving on it. I've just got one part of this story figured out and that I know I can handle. And it's the relationships with leaders and CEOs. They're givers that want talent. They want good people. They're people that have no bias when it comes to race or sex or anything else that people fear, in my opinion, today. It's people that love seeing other people progress and do well. So I think it's selflessness on both ends that we need. So my thing is, to get started in another community, if I believe can it happen in another community? Absolutely. There's plenty of Gary Rabines in every major city of the country. Are they thinking in this way enough? Maybe not. So I would love to lay this out, have the strategic plan here within 2 weeks or 2 months, and then say, here's what it is. Man, you can try to mimic it if you want to, but we're going to build it here. If you can help us build it here in any way you can, we welcome that. And then watch us and be some eyes and ears for us out there, because once we do it here well, then you can do it anywhere.
Let's say we have 10 people that contact us and say, yeah, I did something to get this started, or I did something to contribute to what this project is, and I want to meet with Gary. And we know you love mentoring people, so maybe you want to be in touch with all 10 of them. That's fine. But let's say you only had to pick one. What kind of thing are they doing that makes you feel like, yeah, this person really is doing something meaningful on this project? I want them. I want to talk with them. I want to work with them.
Perfect. Well, my opinion is that, the most valuable resource that I could have over the coming months, when this starts up and beyond, is the minds that understand how to reach the largest percentage of the community through social media, boots on the ground, whatever it looks like, right? The method to do that is the most important thing. The more people we have interested, the more CEOs I can have interested, right? The more people we can talk to that we can find are sincerely want opportunity, sincerely will love being in an organization like any of these organizations that have great culture and core values and great opportunity, right? The more we can get the word out, the faster we get the word out, the better we're going to be. Any minds out there that can help us figure out that in these urban communities, how do you get selfless individuals, right, to be on the lookout for opportunities for these executives to speak from these executives and this platform to distribute social media to, what is the best some of the best applications to do that? I think that's the challenge we're going to have.
So it sounds like a simple action somebody could take that might be very powerful in sort of proving some value here and proving that there's some the right individuals on board is to go into a community and just find 5 or 10 folks and say, hey, listen, I'm going to organize a little event. You can meet with like these really powerful CEOs, or at least one, at least Gary. And this is the type of program that you can get involved in. Can you be here at this time on this day? And we'll have that event. And are you seriously committed to being one of these people? It sounds like that's a step that someone could take to sort of get this started and show what they can do on their end to bring something to the table to what you're doing. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. So if you're from the Chicagoland area, it's easy, right? Because from the Chicagoland area, it's where we're going to focus first. And from anywhere in the country, it's, hey, you know what? I know my urban community. I know what we're going through here. Here's what I would suggest. Or, hey, man, I'm going to be in Chicago. Let me talk to you about that. Or, hey, I got that idea. Let me run it past you, right? Anybody that's had experience in this space before is going to be important. And anybody from, I would say, this generation, right? These young kids that are in their they're 16, 17, 18 years old in these communities is, hey, here's what would really jazz me up, man. Here's what would get me excited. If you guys are talking entry-level jobs, boy, you know what? I'd be excited if this is the type of work I could do. And I think most of the kids I know would be more excited about this type of work than anything you're talking about. So it's going to be voices from the urban community, probably the most important for us to listen to. And then voices of selfless. I keep saying selfless leadership because I feel that in all walks of these communities, and any communities, there's selfish people that are in things for themselves. and their own name, and not really for the community and those kids. I've got a problem with the way some people present themselves as leaders in communities that really isn't selfless to me. I keep saying that selfless thing because I believe if people really care and it's not about themselves, they're going to come up with way better solutions. They're going to be non-biased solutions. They're going to be non-political. And that's what we want, right? So if it's from kids and people from these communities or just outside these communities that understand them better than me, that would be awesome to have all the feedback I can get from them.
Another idea that comes to mind, this is something that an entrepreneur can do. If you work at a company similar to what Gary is talking about here, a lot of times companies like that don't do a great job of onboarding. It's something that they hand you the manual and leave you alone, let you try and figure it out on your own. Maybe you get a mentor within the company. Your direct supervisor has their own work going on, and sometimes it's difficult to get things going. It may be different in other companies. I know in my past life as working in a corporation, I didn't feel very supported starting out. I do think that there's a massive opportunity to help streamline that onboarding process, which is another aspect of what you're talking about here. I mean, it's the main thing of what you're talking about, but you're just from a value added to these companies standpoint, that's something that if someone were to come in and create this structured onboarding process and the system, as you said, in different industries, it's going to be different, right? Yeah. You've had experience with multiple companies. So maybe someone who's already working within one of these companies can create this structure for their own company and get it going.
Yeah, you got some great points there, buddy. I tell you what, you're exactly right. If it's people that are operationally strong-minded people in corporations or business that can help, that'd be awesome, because that's exactly right. We have to build a program that works for all different industries, right? And it's going to be an onboarding program, not totally different, but a little different than most. In our organization, we onboard people for certain parts of the business, and they kind of stay there, right? Sometimes they'll raise their hands, say they're interested in something else, but very seldom they get moved in a year and a half and 4 years to 4 different spots, right? So you're right. It's a different type of onboarding, a different type of mentorship. And I like the way you say that, because it's crossed all 25 companies originally and hopefully hundreds of companies in a short period of time. The process has to be very similar so that they're not stuck in any one spot. They're actually educated to be kind of entrepreneurs. I believe many companies that think like I do are great with people moving on from their company to better themselves somewhere else. Now, I believe it doesn't happen as often as it could. Probably happens in our business maybe 20% of the time. We have people that learn in our business and then go off and do their own thing, which is more than most. But again, I think it's pretty cool when that happens and they're successful from the start in our business. I can tell you in my podcast, you can hear a couple stories like that have come out to be amazing stories of success. People that learned entrepreneurship through our businesses. But again, so what you just said though is important, because we're not just training them and onboarding for one application in the business. It's 4 parts, and it's a lot different. But it's, again, that's what's going to create their value to be more than normal.
The analogy that comes to mind for me is the B Corp. If you're familiar with the term B Corporation,
I am.
They're benefit corporations. They have these commitments that they've made to donate a certain percentage of time or a certain percentage of profits, the environmental stewards, whatever it may be. It sounds like there could be room for something similar in terms of a commitment to lifting up the communities that you're in. If you want to tag it with the entrepreneurial mindset, it's E Corp or something like that. So someone could create a tag, a brand around something like this. And I know personally, if I saw a business, 2 equivalent businesses, one is committed to working and lifting up people within the local community, and one is doesn't have that seal on it, I'm going to choose the one that is going to that has made that commitment.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So that's a clear path that's already been done, that's applied in a different way. That maybe an action for a listener could be to study exactly how that works with the B Corp and pull out what can be applied from the B Corp structure to this idea, how you would modify it and make it fit with what you're talking about here, Gary.
So think about this. I wasn't one of these students, but I had friends of mine that way smarter than me in school and academically, loved it more than I did. That at the beginning, and actually somebody that I had my podcast recently said exactly this. He was valedictorian of his class. He said he didn't think he was that smart, but his mom brought him to the leaders of the school when he entered as a freshman and said, "We want a plan for my son to graduate at the highest academic level he can possible, and we need your help to tell us what you think. I want you to understand who my kid is, right?" And he was all in. The kid was all in, and sure enough, he graduated as a valedictorian. That was planning for success, right? And he also what she did, what that mother did, and what he did with him is she got him in front of the leaders of the school, so they were his cheerleaders, right? Not every parent does this. Very few do this, right? So I look at this program as, executive intern track. The CEO of the company, as well as the executives, are pulling for this person, this kid, right? To go through this program successfully. So that's kind of a big advantage over other people. And I'm not saying we wouldn't do that for anybody in our organization if they came to us. The problem is new people that come on board don't often do that. They don't come to me and say, "Hey, you know what, Gary, the CEO, I want to meet you and spend some time with you," right? A few people do this, and it does work out better for them because I know who they are, and I'm bought into them as well as everybody in the team, right? So again, some people call it, brown nosing or whatever, right? But really, it's just smart planning. And so when I look at this executive leadership track or this executive intern track, if they have the buy-in from the CEO and a bunch of executives in the company, boy, they're going to be led on that path a little better than somebody that doesn't communicate with that same group, right? And I think it's a big advantage. So what you just said is, it makes sense that part of the focus on this is how does that work? How does the mentoring work for that CEO and the executive team? My friend who's got 2,000 people a year, if he's hiring 200 people a year, he's not going to have time for 200 kids, right? But does his executive team have time for those 200 kids to pay attention to them? Probably. So again, that's all part of the thing, right? How do you make that part of the plan? So, boy, success is pretty imminent. If that kid wants it bad enough, success is a no-brainer.
We probably have to wrap up pretty soon here, but I'm going to tease out a little nugget that just came out. I'm just going to highlight it. I've read it in a book. I think the book's called The Magic of Thinking Big or something like this. In the book, the author talks about how if you're working in the mailroom at a company and you tell the other people in the mailroom your big idea, they're going to laugh at you. But what you don't realize, you go tell the CEO your big idea, they're going to ask you more questions. They're going to be intrigued. They're going to be interested. Yeah. And I think you just kind of highlighted that interesting point. People don't realize, I think that's something people could walk away with from here is that if you can put yourself in front of people and tell them the big plans that you have that could have a vested interest in you and help you, you come to a new company, you say, "I'm wondering, is there a chance I could meet with someone at a higher level and ask them these questions?" That could be really powerful.
You're 100% right. And I don't think we do it enough. And, for me, I've always been a pretty outgoing guy. And I told people when I had nothing that someday I was going to run a big business and I love paving and I'm going to be the biggest paving guy in the country. And I told people this stuff and I really believed it. I got a lot of people laughing at me, but as they laughed at me, I was that much more determined as I got laughed at, right? Many people would get put off by that. So I'm not saying that's for everybody, but if you tell many people your goals and your aspirations, especially people that can make a difference in those aspirations, man, it makes a big difference. And if I think about the team members that come talk to me, I have an open door policy. This is one of only probably 1 hour in a month that my door is shut, right? And it's actually a lot of people have gone home by now. But bottom line is, I keep an open door policy because I want my team members to feel comfortable coming to me anytime they want to. But yet, I don't get called on that often, on a weekend, on Saturday, or Sunday, or whatever. But I'm passionate about what I do, so I really don't care, and I actually embrace anybody knocking on my door. I don't care who they are in my business. They work for our businesses. I love them like a family member because they spend more time in my business than they do at home with their families. And so if they're here working in our businesses, if I don't really give them my time and energy, then I'm not doing my job. I think that CEOs and leaders in business that think this way, and the good ones do, they love when somebody that have 2 or 3 levels of bosses between them reach out and say, "Hey, man, I just want to tell you, I really like working for your business. Hey, can I buy a coffee sometime? I want to ask you a couple of things," right? We love that stuff when that happens. It doesn't happen that often. So what I'm saying, I guess, is for sure that person in the mailroom, right? If that person reaches out to the CEO, if they're a good CEO and a good company, that CEO loves it. And they're not put out by it. If they don't have time, they'll tell them, hey, can I get back to you? I got something going on. Can I get back to you in an hour or two, right? And man, that type of connection, it means a lot. And some people think, oh, that's brown nosing, or people around them are going to say, oh man, you're kissing butt again, right? And I don't care what anybody says. It's building relationships of trust. If that's your mindset and that's your goal, you're going to do it. You'll be more successful in your life than you'll ever be otherwise.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gary. I think that's a fantastic place to wrap up. It's been a pleasure talking with you here. This is a great idea that I am very excited to hear what our listeners are going to do with this and what they think about it. So if you're listening in and you're on board with Gary's vision, take some action. Follow through on the steps that we have shared with you. Email us with what you've done. Everyone who does email us will get private access to a Facebook group of people who have proven that they take action. You'll be in good company. And one listener will earn a free 1-hour mentoring call with Gary, who's got a company that does business in all 50 states. He's got thousands of employees. He's been around for a long time. He's obviously very passionate about mentoring and giving back. Fantastic opportunity for listeners out there who follow through. So, Gary, thank you so much again. This is a chance. We'd love to have you talk a little bit about Rabine Paving and your podcast. Anything else you'd like to share?
Hey, you know what? Rabine Group of Companies is a group of companies. We serve facilities owners across America, and some of the greatest companies in the country. We're blessed to call as our customers and our partners, and Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's and Prologis and many others. There's some of the bigger energy companies like Exelon and Southern Gas and Wisconsin Energy. We do work for some of the best companies in the world, and that allows us to really do good things and philanthropically, as well as opportunities and innovation. We constantly innovate more than anybody in our space. We partner with people all over the world to bring the best innovation to our industries. So we have a lot of fun doing what we do. And Ditch Digger CEO is an example of more fun, right? Where we can talk about rags to riches stories on a weekly basis or so, and it's a lot of fun, right? To get into the heads of people that have had great blessings in this great country of America, to understand how the heck they did it, right? Where they came from, what made them think the way they do, and what were the differentiators that made them successful. So that Ditch Digger CEO has been a lot of fun. I've got about 30 episodes, I think, and much like you guys are doing, right? We're trying to bring value to people that might not have it otherwise at no cost to them. It's a blast, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing, because I like where you're going with it. I like the definitive direction you guys take with your podcast. It's really cool. And one more thing, I'm not that valuable. People don't get too excited to talk to me. I usually sit in a dark corner most places. People don't let me out. So if you want to give four mentorship things away from me at a half-hour piece, because everybody's going to get sick of me within 20 minutes. All right, let's just say 4.5 hour. I'll double it up for you. Okay. Awesome.
That's super generous of you, Gary. We need more people like you in the world, more CEOs like you in the world. It sounds like plenty of them, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for anyone to connect with you. So it's extremely generous. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys. You guys are awesome, and keep doing what you're doing.
Now it's time for you to run with it. Follow through on the action steps discussed and email a summary of what you did to update@runwithit.fm. Every listener who emails us will gain exclusive access to a private Facebook group of action takers. And one listener will earn a free mentoring session with today's guest and potentially a business partnership. Help us build the Run With It community of generous entrepreneurs. Please like, subscribe, and review us online. And remember, the secret of getting ahead is getting started.